Thanks for watching Bird's Eye View. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Man, Tommy, the playoffs.
What a night.
What a week.
What a night. What a back-to-back.
Crazy.
I don't think you get much better than two of these winner go home games going down to the last second.
No. It's literally everything you want and more. It was intense though. Where do you want to start?
I think let's start Indy, Atlanta. Your initial thoughts, even just broadly speaking, on the Fever, and you'll get to some of this with Aaliyah a little bit later, with everything they've gone through this year, going on to the second round.
Yeah, I mean, Aaliyah Boston was interviewed, I think it was Malika, before the game, and it was like, fill in the blank. The Indiana Fever need to do blank. And she was like, be resilient. And that clearly is their theme. Super gritty win. All their injuries, they've had to go through so much this season. And honestly, it prepares you for these moments. I guarantee you that's all that they've been talking about in their locker room, right? Like, we've already been through so much. We always find a way. And that's really what they're hanging their hat on. But I'll be honest, whether it's I think thematically what's really jumping out to me is whether you look at Indiana, right? They've had to pick up players like Odyssey Sims, Aerial Powers. I would even say this about Golden State. So even though Golden State lost a tough one in that game 2 to Minnesota has obviously moved on. The thing about Golden State, I think, that allowed them to have the season they had and then the playoffs they had, it's vets. Like, vets win you games. And right now the WNBA, the last couple of years has been in a place from a CBA standpoint, salary cap standpoint, where at times decisions have to be made and teams have generally gone with the youth. They've gone with potential. But I think this playoffs is showing you vets, it might not always be pretty, because those last couple of minutes in that Indiana-Atlanta game where I didn't see a lot of execution. I saw a lot of grit. I saw a lot of will, not a lot of execution. But vets find you ways to win. And that's really what stood out.
Okay, so with Indy in particular, maybe take Kelsey out of it because she's been all world. I feel like just calling her a vet is not doing justice what she's done this year. But with the rest of this roster, and we'll get to her after this, I guess, but with the rest of this roster, how did that manifest itself in this particular series? Because I do think, I went to game 2 in Indy. I think a lot of people thought this thing was over after game 1, even though they played well in game 1 and Atlanta pulled away at the end. I don't think there was a lot of confidence, even in the building in Indiana, that there was any chance. And the fact that they're going to Vegas now, to that point, I'm just kind of curious with this particular makeup of this roster, what's an example of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of listed it with Odyssey, with Aerial Powers,
Tosh.
Yeah, Tosh. But the players that were already on the roster, listen, you have to say vets win you games is not to say you should have, every player needs to have 10 years of experience and up. It's not that. You need a full roster, a full makeup of people. It's putting that together, right? So the youth of Aaliyah Boston. I would even say the youth of Lexi Hall, who has had, I think, a really good year. Starting to I think her experience over the last, 3-4 seasons is starting to kick in. But she's still pretty young. And then, you mentioned Kelsey Mitchell, who has definitely been through a lot. But more than anything, what I saw in game 2, and this is where the Fever deserve a ton of respect. I think Stephanie White's doing a phenomenal job. They had belief, and they threw the first punch. I mean, they threw punches all night in game 2, but they threw the first punch, which is exactly what you need to do. You're finally at home. You get that home game. Atlanta hasn't really, as a group, they haven't done much. They don't really have experience in these moments. So I thought by Indiana throwing that first punch and really defensively setting a tone, I mean, it felt like Atlanta couldn't really get anything going. That grit, again, that kicked up on their defense. And then it allows them to fuel their offense, which, yes, back to the original point, Natasha Howard, Odyssey Sims, Aerial Powers. I mean, these are players that have won championships, Natasha and Aerial. Odyssey has played in a ton of playoff games. You know who I'm even going to throw in there also? Shea Petty, Brianna Turner. These are 2 players that in Phoenix were playing in a finals just a couple years ago. This experience matters in these types of games. They don't get rattled. These players, it's ugly. They could easily fold, and they just don't.
I was thinking about when you're talking about about Atlanta never getting comfortable. You were talking about this about in regards to Golden State last week about just even their strategy with Minnesota just mucking it up.
Yeah.
I think if I had told you before last night, Indy was going to shoot 6 of 22 from three, just everything across the board statistically, like you're kind of like, I don't think that they're winning this game on the road.
Yeah.
But they kind of just kept hanging around. We're going to get to Vegas last night, but I think when you look at these guys moving forward for the rest of the playoffs, does this feel like the recipe for success for them is to just almost play a game like this all the time?
Yeah, a little bit. Would they love to shoot better? 100%. Would they like for it to be a little, let's call it cleaner? 100%. But I think there's something to a team that, has already exceeded expectations. They really have nothing to lose. No one, nobody in Vegas is putting their money on them against the Aces. And yet, all they're doing really is finding ways, particularly the games on the road or this last game on the road, they just like stayed close. That's all you have to do at times. Sometimes you just want to be within 10 points going into the fourth on the road against a team that's quote unquote supposed to beat you. And that's when things get weird. That's when
Yeah.
the pressure really starts to mount for the higher seeded team. And Indiana is playing, especially defensively, just like super, super gritty. And by the way, that's also a theme I'm noticing. We were both at the New York Liberty game against Phoenix. I know we'll get to that in a second. Phoenix is playing the type of defense. So I'd say Phoenix, Indiana. I think Golden State had a little bit of that in game 2. You're seeing it with Vegas in the Vegas-Seattle series as well. There's like a defensive pressure that has kicked up that's really putting a lot of pressure on teams to execute offensively. And so far, what I've seen is the teams that play better in the broken play, and now we'll bring it back to Indiana, Atlanta. Indiana played well in the broken play. Atlanta looked like they didn't know where to go in the broken play.
Well, I was going to say the other thing with that is, and we were talking about this a minute ago, but they have an elite closer in Kelsey. Like you have someone who can just take over a game offensively, and I think we can't probably give her enough credit for what she's had to sort of do this year. All things considered, with all the injuries in the backcourt and everything like that, and so sometimes it is. I feel like just in basketball, it is that it's like everyone knows what they're doing. Everybody plays defense. Everybody is kind of connected. And then you have one person who can take over when you need. I was going to ask you if we had taped this yesterday, if they were going to play her all 40. They ended up only playing her 32 minutes. But that does feel like there's a confidence. It feels like there's a confidence there of them understanding the roles of how everybody fits on this particular group.
Yeah, honestly, do you want to know what my favorite part was? Well, first of all, credit where credit is due. Kelsey Mitchell has 19 in the first half. So I do agree with you that it is nice having that one player, right? I always call it's like every team, if they're going to go far, needs the ultimate bailout. One player has to be able to bail you out. And Indiana does have that with Kelsey Mitchell. But this game was like slightly different in that she started out so hot. But then the credit where credit is due is Atlanta, they changed it up. They put Jordan Canada on her. And if Jordan has I played with Jordan for years. If Jordan has an assignment just to shut someone down, she's going to shut them down. She's feisty. She's quick. You can't get her off you. She's just always there. Not always. She sometimes gives up a little bit in size. But with this Kelsey Mitchell matchup, Jordan's not giving up that much in size. She also had a double-double on the other side, Jordan did. So she played a great game. But I think once Kelsey got that matchup and was having a little more difficult, that brings us to our guest today, Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah steps up, right? Other people on the team are stepping up. And that really, again, circles back on this grit. So that's where Indiana does have like a nice little, I don't know, they've got good little momentum going.
Speaking of grit, the other game last night, another 1-point game, 74-73. I want to get your initial thoughts on this series, but I would just say kind of shout out to both teams because I think we definitely circled this as the series that was probably our favorite going into the playoffs. And I don't know that it could have delivered, honestly, any better than it did.
Yeah. Just huge swings. Obviously, game 1 was not great, right? I don't even mean from who won who. It was just not a great game. It was a blowout. Aces, did their thing. So to have game 2 and game 3 be what they were, game 2, honestly, they were very similar in that the storm just wouldn't go away. The Aces kind of were doing enough, and the storm just wouldn't go away. I mean, like I said, is this or is this not the theme of this playoffs?
Yeah.
It's not about being pretty. It's just about it's about being resilient. I feel like every team in their post-game interviews has talked about resiliency. And the same could be said here. I thought the Aces did, from game 2 to game 3, did a great job of adjusting and getting Asia different looks, getting her to different spots. Becky had talked about wanting to get her in movement against Dom, who does have a lot of length. So Asia played a great game, but man, I'm just like, not a Jackie Young putback. That one,
I
as a
know.
Storm fan, that one hurt. It's like you do everything right. You finally get Asia to miss. You finally get her to pull up. She was just driving to the bat. You finally get her to take a mid-range, and Jackie Young's there on the other side, who in this series, you're going to talk about Asia. I mean, she had like 38. How do you not? Jackie Young has really been someone, I think, that is like that, I don't know, that X Factor unsung hero.
I feel like that's always not to discount anything that Asia has done on all of these runs, but we always have that conversation every time the Aces make the run. Is like, and you kind of talked about that with her when she came on.
Mm-hmm.
Is it feels like she's like a September, October player.
Yeah,
Like,
she's so hard to guard. I don't think people fully understand when she gets downhill, she's incredibly strong, incredibly strong. She's got great size. And when she gets downhill, she's now added like the slow mo Euro step. So she gets you on her shoulder. It's not a charge, but she's able to bump you off a little bit and then slows down. Like that decel, I don't think people understand how hard that is. And they couldn't, the Storm, there's a couple possessions late where they just couldn't guard that.
Even though they lost in the first round, and if we asked them this right now, I'm sure they would probably get mad even hearing the question. Does this season feel like a success for the Storm, or this outcome feel like a success for the Storm, considering where they were 6 weeks ago, where we weren't even sure they were going to make the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. That's a tough. I get what you're saying. I think they should be incredibly proud with how they finished the season off. Again, given how game 1 went, they should be incredibly proud for the bounce back. Every single player you could say something about that stepped up and did something. I think the overall look at the season, though, where the disappointment lives and where you feel like they could have done better, is they could have been a higher seed. This could have been a different scenario if they have home court advantage, right, in the first round. So that's where it's like, compared to the last 6 weeks, the response was amazing. But then you look at the whole season and you just feel like this is a team that could have finished in the top 4. But again, sometimes it is what it is and you got to play it out. So for them to respond is definitely something to be proud of.
I thought just with Malanga alone.
Yeah.
We didn't get a chance to tape in between games 2 and 3. When she came in the game, I had this written down. The Aces had a 97.5% chance to win. Just having somebody like that off the bench who's 19, who can swing a game like that with all the other talent that they have up and down that roster, it does feel like it was funny watching these two teams because both teams are just loaded.
Yeah, this is a really good matchup. These two teams in the regular season had some battles. Honestly, in the last couple of years, we've played them in the playoffs. We played them my last year in the playoffs. These two teams, this isn't just like your typical 2 versus 7, right?
Yeah.
Because of history, because of, I think, the matchup itself, just how the two teams match up, just makes for a tough series. But yeah, I mean, the Aces, I don't know. I feel like I think when the Aces look back on this, it's probably the best thing that could have happened, right? Like having a really difficult, back against the wall, having to win, having to find a way to win in a decisive game 3. They're going to take that experience, especially coming off that 17-game winning streak, right? Then they found themselves in the mud again and they got themselves out, and they're going to take that with them through the rest of the playoffs.